Philippine History Pre-Spanish Period. Prepared by Mr. Ernie Ronell, Team Mabawa Hague. Social classes. The society was made up of three classes: nobles, made up of the Datu and their families, Mahadlika or Maharlika, freemen, and the Alipin, dependents. Members of the nobility were addressed with the title Gat or Lakan among the Tagalogs, Maguindanao Sultan, nobles and Alipins. Alipin or dependents acquired their status by inheritance, captivity, purchase, failure to settle debts, or by committing a crime. There were two kinds of dependents, Aliping Namamahi and Aliping Sajajilid. In the Visayas, dependents were of three kinds: Tumataban, Dumarampok, and Yui. Maguindanao Sultan, nobles and Alipins. Mode of dressing. Male attire was composed of the kangan, sleeveless jacket, and bahag, loin cloth. The color of the kangan indicates rank: red for the chief, black or blue for the commoners. Men also wear a turban called putong, which also tell the social status/achievement of the individual wearing it. Female attire consisted of baro or camisa, jacket with sleeves, and saya or patadyong, a long skirt. Some women wore a piece of red or white cloth on top of their skirt called dapi. Bogobo man and woman. Kalinga and Sabuanan women. Putong. Bogobo man. Ornaments. Men and women wore ornaments to look attractive. Both wear kalambiga, pendants, bracelets, and leglets. These ornaments were made of gold. Some wore gold fillings between the teeth. Tattoos were also fashionable for some pre-colonial Filipinos. They also exhibit a man's war record. Islas del Pintados, term coined by the Spaniards for the Visayans, Bontukman. Politics. Government. Unit of government was the barangay, which consisted of from 30 to 100 families. The term came from the Malay word balangay, meaning boat. Barangays were headed by chieftains called datu. The subjects served their chieftain during wars, voyages, planting and harvest, and when his house needs to be built or repaired, they also pay tributes called buis, balangay. The chief or datu was the chief executive, the legislator, and the judge. He was also the supreme commander in times of war. Alliances among barangays were common, and these were formalized in a ritual called sangdiguan. Conflicts between or among barangays were settled by violence. Those who win by forces, always right, laws were either customary, handed down from generation to generation orally, or written, promulgated from time to time as necessity arose. Dealt with various subjects such as inheritance, property rights, divorce, usury, family relations, divorce, adoption, loans, etc. Those found guilty of crimes were punished either by fine or by death. Some punishments can be considered as torture by modern standards. However, it must be noted that ancients did not believe in endangering society by letting loose a gang of thieves or recidivists who are incapable of reform. Legislation. Before laws are made, the chief consults with a council of elders who approved of his plan. They are not immediately enforced until the new legislation is announced to the village by the Amalahokan, who also explains the law to everyone. Judicial process. Disputes between individuals were settled by a court made up of the village chief and the council of elders. Between barangays, a board made up of elders from neutral barangays acted as arbiter. The accused and the accuser faced each other in front of the court with their respective witnesses. Both took an oath to tell the truth. Most of the time, the one who presents the most witnesses wins the case. If the losing party contests the decision, he is bound to lose in the end because the chief always take the side of the winner. Trial by ordeal. To determine the innocence of an accused, he is made to go through a number of ordeals which he must pass. Examples include dipping one's hand in boiling water, holding a lighted candle that must not be extinguished, plunging into a river and staying underwater for as long as possible, chewing uncooked rice and spitting, etc. Among the Afugos, ordeal by combat was common, i.e. bultong, wrestling, alor, duel. Bultong. Economic life. Agriculture main source of livelihood. Rice, coconuts, sugarcane, cotton, hemp, bananas, oranges, and many species of fruits and vegetables were grown. Done in two ways, Keynesian system, slash and burn, and tillage. When the Spaniards came to the Philippines, they noted that Cebu and Palawan were abundant in many agricultural foodstuffs. Agricultural productivity was enhanced by use of irrigation ditches like those found in the Ifugao rice terraces. Landholding was either public, less arable land that could be tilled freely by anyone, and private, rich and cultivated lands belonging to nobles and datus. Some rented land and paid in gold or in kind. The daily fare consisted of rice and boiled fish, or sometimes pork or venison, carabao or wild buffalo meat. Fermented the sap of palm trees and drank it as liquor called tuba. Livestock. Pre-colonial Filipinos raised chickens, pigs, goats, caballos, and small native ponies. Fishing was a thriving industry for those who live in the coast or near rivers and lakes. Various tools for fishing such as nets, bow and arrow, spear, wicker basket, hooks and lines, corrals and fish poisons were used. Pearls fisheries also abound in Sulu. Mining fishing with bow and arrow. Comparatively developed before the coming of the Spaniards. The ancients mined gold in many parts of the archipelago and were traded throughout the country and with other countries. Lumbering and shipbuilding were flourishing industries. Filipinos were said to be proficient in building ocean-going vessels. All kinds of boats or ships were built, which the Spaniards later called banca, balangay, lapis, caraco, viri, vinto and prau. Weaving home industry that was dominated by women using crude wooden looms. Textiles such as cinema from hemp, medrinake from banana, cotton, linen, and silk, were woven. Trade was conducted between or among barangays, or even among the islands. There was trade too with other countries such as China, Siam, Japan, Cambodia, Borneo, Sumatra, Java, and other islands of old Malaysia. Did not use any currency but conducted trade through barter. Sometimes, goods were priced in terms of gold or metal gongs. Chinese traders noted that Filipinos were very honest in their commercial transactions. Philippine Spanish colonial era. Jeremiah Pua, Jeremitan. Aaron Mat I Basco. Jules Marcelino, Kia. Socio-economic life. Social classes. Peninsulas, full-blooded Spanish living in the Philippines and born in Spain. Insulas, full-blooded Spanish living in the Philippines and born in the Philippines as well. Ilustrados, the enlightened ones, wealthy group of individuals born in the Philippines and were able to study abroad. Chinese/Spanish mestizos, people with mixed racial origins and economically sufficient. India, native/full-blooded Filipinos. Sangli, full-blooded Chinese living in the Philippines. Chinese/Spanish mestizos. Social pyramid. Peninsulas/Insulas. Ilustrados. Chinese/Spanish mestizos. Indio/Sangli. Mercantilist system. The economic theory and policy influential in Europe from the 16th to the 18th century that called for government regulation of a nation's economy in order to increase its power at the expense of rival nations. Mercantilism's emphasis on the importance of gold and silver holdings as a sign of a nation's wealth and power led to policies designed to obtain precious metals through trade. The Spaniards closed the ports of Manila to all countries except Mexico. Thus, the Manila-Acapulco trade, better known as the galleon trade, was born. The galleon trade was a government monopoly. Only 2 galleons were used. One sailed from Acapulco to Manila with some 500,000 pesos worth of goods, spending 120 days at sea. The other sailed from Manila to Acapulco with some 250,000 pesos worth of goods, spending 90 days at sea. Tribute. In July 26, 1523, King Charles V decreed that Indians who had been pacified should contribute a moderate amount in recognition of their vassalage. Taxation system. Cedula tax, a form of taxation implemented in 1884. This served as a paper which was used as proof that one was a colony of Spain and a legitimate member of a pueblo. Before, Filipinos and Chinese only had to pay tribute, but it was revised that all residents of the Philippines were obliged to pay the cedula, bandalar system, a form of direct taxes that the Spaniards implemented in which the natives were coerced to sell their products to the government at very low prices. Kasama system. Under this arrangement, the landowners supplied the seed and cash necessary to tide cultivators over during the planting season, whereas the cultivators provided tools and work animals and were responsible for 1/2 of the expense of crop production. Usually, owner and sharecropper each took 1/2 of the harvest, although only after the former deducted a portion for expenses. Polo y servicio. A system of forced labor for 40 days for men ranging from 16 to 60 years of age who were obligated to give personal services to community projects. One could be exempted from polo by paying the fire, corruption of the Spanish falta, meaning absence, daily.